I squeeze Eli's small hand a little tighter as we push through the heavy glass doors of the Copper House grill. The rich aroma of aged steaks and buttery sauces envelops us like a luxurious perfume. A hostess with impeccable posture greets us, her practiced smile softening when she sees my 8-year-old son adjusting his tiny clip-on tie. "Good evening, Miss Monroe. Your family is already seated." My heart does a tiny flip. $600. That's what it cost to reserve this corner table for my parents. 45th anniversary. $600 from my marketing salary that's already stretched thin between mortgage payments and Eli's school expenses. "But tonight has to be perfect. Ready, buddy?" I ask Eli. He nods solemnly. The restaurant unfolds in a warm glow of amber lighting and polished wood. A piano player teases a classical melody from the grand piano in the corner. Couples lean in close, their voices hushed in intimate conversation. The hostess guides us past it all toward the large round table where my family waits. I see them instantly. My younger sister, Brianna, sits there, her perfectly highlighted hair falling over a designer dress that probably costs more than my monthly mortgage payment. Her husband, Derek, nods absent-mindedly while scrolling on his phone. Their 2 boys, 7 and 5, fidget in their chairs despite the tablet propped between them. My father, Frank, sits tall and composed. My mother, Elaine, beside him, both smiling at Brianna's boys. 2 wrapped gifts with bright blue ribbons rest between my parents' wrists, one for each of Brianna's sons. "We're here," I announce, forcing warmth into my voice. Mom looks up. "Oh, Alexis, there you are." Not a single glance toward Eli. "Happy anniversary." I lean down to kiss my mother's cheek. It's cool against my lips. 45 years is remarkable. Dad nods stiffly in acknowledgement. "Thank you for arranging this," he says. Brianna barely looks up from her phone. "Hey, sis." I help Eli into the empty chair beside me, watching as he carefully smooths his napkin over his lap like I taught him. His dark eyes scan the table, taking everything in. I can see he notices the gifts and the lack of recognition. "Eli picked out cards for both of you," I whisper, nudging my son gently. He reaches into his suit pocket and produces 2 handmade cards covered in careful crayon drawings. "Happy anniversary, Grandma and Grandpa." Mom accepts them with a distracted smile. "That's nice, dear." The cards vanish into her purse without so much as a glance. "Alexis, be reasonable. Your sister needs this more." My mother's voice slices through me, sharp and familiar. How many times did I hear those words growing up? When Brianna needed a new coat more than I needed winter boots. When Brianna deserved the last piece of cake because she'd had a rough day at school. When Brianna required my college fund because her wedding had to be perfect. It's a pattern I've never broken. Even now, raising Eli alone after his father walked out. I still send Brianna money when she calls with her latest crisis. Still show up to every family gathering, hoping this time will be different. Still hoping, for Eli's sake, for just one perfect family dinner. A waiter arrives with leather-bound menus. I watch Eli's eyes widen at the elegant script, his finger tracing the descriptions of each dish. He pauses at the shrimp pasta, his favorite special occasion meal. "Would anyone care for appetizers?" the waiter asks. Brianna's boys shout their choices while my father nods approvingly at their healthy appetites. When the waiter turns toward Eli, my son glances at my father first, a child's instinctive deference to the family patriarch, then back at the menu. "Could I have the shrimp pasta, please?" Eli asks, his voice barely audible over the piano music. The waiter looks toward my father, who continues studying his menu as if Eli hadn't spoken. The silence stretches. Brianna smirks, not bothering to look up from her phone. "We didn't order for him," she says. My breath catches. My father adds coldly, "You should have packed him something." The table goes deadly quiet. Even Brianna's boys stop squirming. Sensing the tension, Eli shrinks in his chair, eyes fixed on his empty plate. His small shoulders curve inward like he's trying to disappear. Something inside me cracks, not dramatically, but with the quiet finality of ice breaking on a winter lake. 5 years of raising this gentle, kind boy alone. 5 years of taking him to family gatherings where he's treated as an afterthought. 5 years of convincing myself it would get better if I just tried harder. My face stays calm as I take it in. My family has deliberately excluded my child from dinner at an event I paid for, at a table I reserved. The waiter shifts awkwardly beside us. Perhaps I should come back, he starts. No, I say, my voice unnervingly calm. That won't be necessary. I rise slowly, straightening to my full height. Please cancel any pending orders for this table, Alexis. My mother begins, alarm creeping into her voice. Bill it all to my father, I continue, meeting the waiter's eyes. It's his celebration after all. I reach for Eli's hand. He looks up at me, surprise replacing the hurt in his eyes. For the first time, he sees me stand up to my family. The first time I truly choose him over their approval. Frank's face reddens. Now wait just a minute. No, I say again. I don't think I will. Brianna's mouth falls open in shock as I guide Eli from his chair. We walk away from the table, past the curious glances of nearby diners, through the elegant restaurant where I had hoped my son might finally feel included in his own family. He squeezes my hand as we reach the doors. Are you mad, Mom? Not at you, I tell him. Never at you, only at myself. For how long? It took me far too long to see what was right in front of me. Later that night, my phone buzzes for the 13th time. I don't even need to check it to know who it is. The screen casts a pale glow across the dark kitchen where I sit alone, bank statements scattered across the table like fallen leaves. Each notification carries another accusation. Frank, you humiliated us in front of everyone. After all we've done. Elaine, how could you embarrass your father on his special night? After everything we've done for you, Brianna. So dramatic. It was just dinner. You're overreacting, as usual. I sip cold coffee and pull another statement from the pile. The truth hides in plain sight, tucked between deposit notices and withdrawal confirmations. My fingertip traces each transaction as if pressing on a bruise to make sure it's real. There it is. $900 transferred to Brianna's account on the 1st of every month for the past 8 months. Half her rent. At first, she claimed it was for emergency car repairs. Then medical bills. Then school supplies for her boys. None of the money ever returned. Another statement reveals $3,000 in emergency loans, vanished without repayment or acknowledgement. 4 years of my life in financial support that no one remembers me giving. I close my eyes, the numbers burning behind my lids. When I open them again, Eli's school photo on the fridge catches my eye. His cautious smile, those serious eyes taking it all in, just like at the restaurant. My phone buzzes again. I silence it. 3 quiet, blessed days pass. I'm chopping vegetables for Eli's lunch when a sharp knock rattles the front door. 3 firm raps, each carrying the entitlement of the people outside. Frank stands in the driveway, shoulders squared in his golf polo. Elaine lingers behind him, arms crossed. Brianna shifts from one designer heel to the other, chewing her lip in carefully staged distress. I consider pretending I'm not home, but their car is parked where I can see it. No hiding now. Coming, I call, wiping my hands on a dish towel. The moment I open the door, Frank barges past me into my modest living room. Their presence makes the space shrink. We need to talk, he says, not waiting for an invitation. Eli is at school. Thankfully, this isn't something an 8-year-old should witness. About what? I ask, closing the door behind them. Frank flares his nostrils. About that dinner fiasco. You embarrassed this entire family. Brianna's eyes glisten, already rehearsing tears. People are still talking about it. Our reputation. Frank slaps a folded piece of paper onto my coffee table. It unfolds to reveal a typed invoice for $1,200, double my original deposit. You owe us, Elaine steps forward. Her voice is honeyed but sharp as ice. Be reasonable, Alexis. Pay up, or we'll let everyone know what an ungrateful daughter you really are. The threat hangs heavy in the air. I feel that familiar urge to cave, to write a check just to make them leave, to buy a few more weeks of peace. Instead, I say, excuse me for a moment. I need to make a call. My hands are steadier than I expected as I step into the kitchen and dial Aunt Carla. It's Alexis. Could you and Uncle Ray come over right now? It's important. 20 minutes of frosty silence later, the doorbell rings. Ray and Carla enter like reinforcements in a battle I've been fighting alone too long. Ray's 6'4" frame and quiet authority make Frank shift slightly. Carla, my mother's older sister, surveys the room with sharp eyes that miss nothing. What's going on? Ray asks, calm but commanding. Frank begins Brianna's performance again. Alexis abandoned us at Dad's anniversary dinner and now won't take responsibility. That's not what happened, I interrupt, surprising myself with my steady voice. They refused to feed Eli at a dinner I paid for. Frank steps toward me, finger raised. You listen here? Back off, Frank, Ray says quietly, positioning himself between us without moving a muscle. Carla perches on the arm of my sofa. I've seen this pattern for decades, she says. You've always favored Brianna. Expected Alexis to sacrifice without complaint. That's ridiculous, Elaine sputters. Is it? I walk to the dining table and return with a stack of statements. I've been covering half of Brianna's rent for 8 months, $800 a month. That's $7,200 emergency loans that were never repaid. Free babysitting for her boys while she and Derek took weekend trips. Emotional support that was never returned. My voice grows stronger with each word. This ends today, Carla nods. When's the last time anyone helped Alexis? During her divorce from Jason? When Eli had pneumonia last winter? When her car broke down in July? Silence falls. Frank stares at the floor. Elaine examines her manicure. Brianna swallows hard. That's what I thought, Carla says. I reach into my purse and pull out 6 crisp $100 bills. Money I can't really spare but need to spend for my own sanity. I slide them across the coffee table toward the invoice. Half the deposit. That's reasonable. Frank reaches for the cash. Now about the rest. The rent payments to Brianna stop today, I say, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I've documented everything, every transfer, every pleading text, every broken promise. If anyone wants to argue about who's ungrateful, I have the receipts. Brianna's fake tears vanish instantly. You can't do that. I have bills. So do I. I gather the statements and place them back in their folder. We're done here? Frank sputters, his face turning deep red. Brianna panics, eyes flicking to Elaine for support that never comes. I believe my niece asked you to leave, Carla says, standing. Ray moves toward the door, opening it wide in silent invitation. They file out. Frank first, then Elaine, then Brianna, who pauses to hiss. You'll regret this, before Ray nudges her forward. I close the door behind them. Suddenly, the house feels bigger. The air lighter. Ray squeezes my shoulder once before he and Carla leave, promising to call tomorrow. I sink to the floor against the door. My hands shake uncontrollably. Tears I've been holding back sting behind my eyes, but I keep them in. Eli will be home soon. He doesn't need to see me cry. Not today. Today, for the first time in my adult life, I chose myself. 2 days later, I check my phone for the 10th time that morning, scrolling through notifications with a tightening in my chest. Brianna's Facebook status glows from the screen. Some people forget where they came from when they think money makes them better than family. 27 likes, 5 comments asking what happened. Mom's response sits directly below, heart emoji included. Some people forget where they came from. Vague, intentional. Enough to hint that something's wrong. Just enough to pique curiosity. Just enough to make me the villain. My phone rings. Cousin Beth, the 3rd family member to call today. I send it to voicemail, adding her to my growing list of screened calls. The quiet satisfaction of this small boundary surprises me. 2 weeks ago, I would have answered immediately, desperate to justify myself. Not anymore. My notepad sits open on the kitchen counter, every interaction since the restaurant confrontation meticulously documented. Dates, times, exact words. What started as a defensive habit now feels like building a fortress around Eli and me, one fact at a time. My phone buzzes with a text from Jennifer, my coworker. Coffee before work tomorrow? You seem like you could use a friend, I type back, yes, before I can overthink it. Sunday morning comes with church, a ritual I keep for Eli's sake, despite my complicated feelings about faith. We slide into our usual pew, and I immediately sense the weight of stares. Mrs. Rollins leans toward her husband, whispering behind her hymnal. Their eyes flick to me, concern written all over their faces, but not a shred of compassion. Are you okay, ma'am? Eli asks, noticing my white-knuckled grip on the program. I force my fingers to loosen. I'm fine, buddy. Later in the fellowship hall, I overhear Elaine's friend Patricia talking about her mental struggles since the divorce. "Such a shame for that little boy," she says. I guide Eli toward the door without a word. Another note from my documentation. Tuesday afternoon, my second therapy session. Dr. Winters sits across from me, her silver-framed glasses catching the light as she flips through my notes. "This is excellent documentation, Alexis," she says, tapping the notebook. "Most people don't think to record these interactions." "I need to remember exactly what's happening," I explain. "Sometimes I doubt myself. That's common with long-term family patterns," she nods. "You're setting boundaries many people never manage. How does that feel?" she asks. I pause. Like putting down a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. Thursday evening, I push a cart through Sunridge Market, Eli beside me reading off our shopping list. We turn into the baking aisle and my body stiffens before my mind catches up. Why? Brianna stands near the flower, phone pressed to her ear. She spots us immediately. "I'll call you back," she says loudly, ending the call. Her eyes narrow as she approaches. "Well, if it isn't the family destroyer." Eli edges closer to me. I place a protective hand on his shoulder. "We're just grocery shopping, Brianna," I say quietly. "This isn't the place. There is no right place when you're tearing a family apart over nothing," she shoots back, her voice rising and drawing the attention of nearby shoppers. "Mom's heartbroken. Dad barely speaks. All because you couldn't handle one dinner." "This isn't about dinner," I reply, keeping my voice low and steady. "It's about respect. For me and for Eli, respect." She laughs, brittle and hollow. "What about respecting the people who've always been there for you? Who supported you through everything?" The lie is so blatant I almost laugh. Memories flash. Rent I've paid for her apartment. Emergency cash transfers never repaid. The childcare I provided while she and Derek went on weekend trips. "You'll regret choosing your pride over family," she continues, voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. "Family is everything, Alexis. Everything I said, the old me would have apologized. Would have found some way to smooth things over. Might have even taken Brianna out for coffee afterward to talk it out, ending with me somehow apologizing for being hurt. Instead, I simply say, 'Excuse us,' and steer my cart around her." "Really? You're just walking away." She calls after us, but I keep moving, Eli's small hand finding mine. "You did good, Mom," he whispers. Once we're in the next aisle, his quiet approval gives me unexpected strength. Support seems to appear in the most unlikely places. Jennifer meets me for coffee before work, listening without judgment as I share carefully edited highlights of the family drama. "Sounds like you're finally standing up for yourself," she observes. "About time." Miss Watson, Eli's teacher, mentions during parent pickup that he seems more confident in class. "Whatever changes you're making at home, they're working," she says, smiling warmly. Dr. Winters validates my boundaries as healthy, not selfish. "Your family has a narrative about who you are and what you owe them," she explains. "When you challenge that narrative, they'll push back before they accept the new reality." Aunt Carla calls daily. Her check-ins are a lifeline to family connection without the toxicity. "Your mother pulled the same routine when I refused to loan Frank money for his failed hardware store," she reminds me. 2 months of silent treatment, then pretending nothing happened. The most surprising support comes from the single-parent group I joined. Dr. Winters suggested it. Among strangers sharing similar struggles, I find myself opening up about patterns I've never voiced before. They nod. Their understanding feels like permission to keep healing. The following Wednesday, my phone rings during a client meeting. Eli's school number flashes. "Miss Monroe?" The principal's voice sounds strained. "Could you come in this afternoon? There's a situation we need to discuss." Ice forms in my stomach. "Is Eli okay?" "He's fine. But we received a concerning report. It would be better to discuss in person." 3 hours later, I sit across from Principal Delaney, a woman from Child Protective Services, beside him. My hands tremble slightly as I fold them in my lap. Someone filed an anonymous report claiming neglect. The CPS worker's tone is professional, not unkind. "We're required by law to investigate all reports," she explains. The fear that initially flooded me hardens into something sharper, colder. What kind of neglect? inadequate food, unsupervised after school, possible emotional neglect. Each accusation is so absurd it would be laughable if it weren't so serious. My mind catalogs the facts. Fully stocked fridge, Eli's after-school program attendance, his excellent academic performance. When would you like to conduct your home visit? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. The CPS worker seems taken aback by my directness. Tomorrow morning, she replies. That works perfectly, I say. That night, I don't panic or cry. Instead, I channel the anxiety into action, cleaning our already tidy home, organizing Eli's schoolwork into labeled folders, and printing out his medical records showing consistent checkups. I even pack his neatly prepared lunch for the next day. Then I call Aunt Carla. Brianna, she says immediately when I explain. It has to be. The CPS worker arrives promptly at 9 the next morning. She walks through our modest but well-kept home, checks the refrigerator and pantry, reviews Eli's school records, and notes his clean bedroom filled with age-appropriate toys and books. Miss Monroe, she says, making her final notes. I'll be closing this case immediately. This appears retaliatory, she adds. What does that mean? I ask, though I already suspect. It means someone likely filed this report to punish you, not out of genuine concern for your son. She sighs. Unfortunately, we see this often in family disputes. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. After she leaves, I call Jennifer to reschedule our lunch. Then I make another call, this time to an attorney recommended by someone in my support group. I need to document harassment, I explain over the phone. And I need to know my options. 2 days later, I sit in Attorney Lawrence's office. Evidence spread neatly across her desk. Every Venmo transfer to Brianna, every rent receipt, every desperate text message. $7,200 over 8 months. She scans the numbers, frowning. Plus childcare hours equivalent to around 4,000 in services. She looks up over her glasses. You've been thorough. That's good. I'm learning to be. And you've been recording all interactions with family members? I nod toward my notebook. Dates, times, exact wording whenever possible. Excellent. I can draft cease and desist letters based on the harassment pattern and false CPS report. She taps her pen against the pad. You understand this will likely sever your relationship with them? The question should terrify me. A few weeks ago it would have. But now I feel only clarity. This isn't family drama anymore, I tell her quietly. It's war. The next day, I watch the FedEx driver retreat down my walkway, his shoes crunching against the autumn leaves. In my hands, 3 identical envelopes, Frank, Elaine, and Brianna Monroe. My attorney, Sarah, had assured me this was necessary after the ambush. You're doing the right thing, she'd said yesterday, sliding the documents across her desk. False CPS reports are serious. These letters establish a paper trail. Inside the envelopes are meticulous records, bank statements showing years of financial support, text messages begging for emergency loans, and a formal statement from the CPS worker confirming the visit appeared retaliatory. Sarah's stern warning about legal consequences stares back at me from the first page. My terms are unambiguous. The financial exploitation ends today. I slide the letters into the outgoing mail slot and exhale, feeling a relief I haven't known in years. I'm not seeking anyone's approval, nor am I fearing disappointment. I'm simply claiming what's mine. Later that evening, while helping Eli with his homework, my phone buzzes with a number I don't recognize. Alexis, it's Derek, Brianna's husband. My finger hovers over the end call button. Please don't hang up, he says quickly. I'm not calling to argue. Then why are you calling? My tone stays neutral, neither inviting nor hostile. Brianna pushed for the CPS report, he admits, his voice low. I tried to stop her, but he hesitates. Look, check your Venmo in 5 minutes. I'm paying back everything, the rent, all of it. Why now? I ask, because this has gone too far. There's a surprising note of resignation in his voice. $3,600, that's what we owe you, right? I'm done enabling this. She's on her own now. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, a Venmo notification appears. $3,600 with a simple message. I'm sorry. Another text follows. They're planning something else. Be careful. I don't respond immediately. This sudden alliance feels like quicksand, too dangerous to reject. too unstable to trust. Instead, I screenshot the transaction and forward it to Sarah. Documentation. Always documentation. The weekend arrives with unseasonably warm October sunshine. Eli spends the morning at a friend's birthday party, giving me rare quiet hours. I decide to finally tackle the garage, a project I've avoided since the divorce. Physical work feels good, a way to channel the storm inside me into something tangible. 3 hours later, sweat soaking my t-shirt, I uncover a shoebox tucked behind my old college textbooks. The sight sends an electric jolt through me. This box came from my childhood bedroom during the rushed move after my divorce. I'd completely forgotten it. I carry it into the kitchen, hands trembling as I lift the lid. The scent of old paper and forgotten memories rises to meet me. Inside, school report cards with teacher comments on my quiet, helpful nature, a blue ribbon from a 5th grade science fair, a handful of photographs showing a solemn-faced girl standing apart from her beaming younger sister, and a yellowed envelope. My mother's precise handwriting addresses it to my father. Dated August 1988, 1 week after my birth. My heart stutters. I slide my finger under the sealed flap, which opens easily after all these years. Inside, on pale blue stationery, fragile with age, her words read, "Frank, I wasn't ready for another baby. Not so soon after Brianna. I try, but I can't seem to bond with this one like I did with our first." When I look at Alexis, I don't feel that same rush of love. Sometimes I wonder if there's something wrong with me, or with her. She's so quiet, so watchful. Nothing like our Brianna. What if this never changes? What if I never love her the same way? Elaine, at the bottom of my father's block. Your handwriting? A response, she'll grow out of it. Just favor Brianna. Until then. Less pressure on you that way. The paper slips from my fingers, landing silently on the kitchen counter. 35 years of feeling like an outsider in my own family suddenly crystallize into perfect clarity. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't my fault. My exclusion wasn't something I could fix with more effort or understanding. It was intentional from the very beginning. I stare at the evidence of my mother's emotional rejection, a confession she never intended me to see. The familiar ache in my chest shifts into something else entirely. Not hurt, not even anger. Just a profound, overwhelming certainty. I reach for my phone and photograph the letter without hesitation. I send the image to my parents and Brianna. No subject line. No message. Just the evidence. Then I block all 3 numbers. The next afternoon, my Aunt Carla calls while Eli plays in the backyard. Her voice holds a strange mix of shock and vindication. "I ran into your mother at Safeway," she says without preamble. Elaine looked like she'd seen a ghost, pale as paper. She kept muttering that I'd destroyed the family. I watch Eli through the kitchen window as he carefully constructs an elaborate fort from fallen branches. I didn't destroy anything, I think. I only exposed the truth. Well, that letter's certainly done its work, Carla continues. Your cousin Melissa called. Apparently your sister's been on a rampage yelling at your parents about documented favoritism. Frank's blaming Elaine for keeping the letter all these years. I should feel something. Satisfaction, maybe, or grief. Instead, I feel a strange weightlessness, as if I've set down a burden I carried so long I'd forgotten it existed. People are finally starting to see through Brianna's narrative. Carla adds that the image of a perfect family is cracking wide open. After we hang up, I join Eli in the backyard. He's built an impressive structure, complete with a small entrance and what looks like a lookout tower. "Want to see inside, Mom?" he asks, his face glowing with pride. I nod, and he leads me to the entrance, pointing out details along the way. He pauses, studying my face with surprising intensity. "You look different," he says. "Different how?" I ask. He thinks for a moment, head tilted. "You don't look worried anymore." I squat down to his level, meeting his earnest gaze. "I'm not worried anymore," I tell him, and realize it's true. The tightness between my shoulder blades, the weight I've carried for as long as I can remember, has finally released. Family narratives crumble easily when exposed to light. Mine took 35 years to crack, but now that it has, I feel only the quiet strength of truth. The foundation beneath me feels solid for the first time in my life. I duck my head and follow my son into the fort he built with his own hands, leaving the past where it belongs. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday 2 weeks later. A crisp, official white envelope. the return address embossed with a prestigious law firm's name. My hands trembled slightly as I slid it open after sending Eli off to school. Notice of petition for grandparent visitation rights. The heading was bold, commanding. My stomach sank as I read the formal, intimidating legal language. Frank and Elaine, no longer mom and dad in my mind, were demanding court-ordered access to Eli. The paper cited Arizona family law statutes and painted me as an unstable, vindictive mother, deliberately keeping their grandson from them. I sank into the kitchen chair, the document shaking in my hands. After years of barely acknowledging Eli, they were now claiming some deep, essential bond I was cruelly severing. Miss Monroe has exhibited increasingly erratic behavior, the petition alleged, including abruptly cutting off family relationships without cause, making unfounded accusations, and showing an inability to maintain healthy familial connections crucial to the child's well-being. The lawyer's name at the bottom belonged to one of Scottsdale's priciest firms. Of course, they'd spare no expense now when it suited their image. Fear clutched me like a vice. What if a judge sided with them? What if Eli was forced into supervised visits with people who had deliberately excluded him, even filed false reports against me? The thought of him legally mandated to spend time with them, while I waited helplessly, made my chest tighten. And then there was the money, attorney fees. Court costs. How much would this drain from Eli's college fund? From our stability? My hands shaking, I called my lawyer. She promised to review the documents immediately. The hour until she returned, my call felt endless. I paced the kitchen, imagining worst-case scenarios where strangers in robes made decisions that could affect Eli for years. When my phone finally rang, her voice was calm, steady. They have no case, Alexis. Arizona law won't support them. You're sure? I asked, needing absolute certainty. Grandparent visitation in Arizona requires extraordinary circumstances. The court prioritizes parental rights unless there's clear evidence that severing the grandparent relationship would genuinely harm the child. Based on what you've shown me, their minimal involvement in Eli's life and the false CPS report, their case is laughably weak. The relief almost made my knees buckle, but as I hung up, anger replaced fear. This wasn't just another manipulation, it was a declaration of war against my son's well-being. I spent the weekend fortifying my defenses. Every slight against Eli, every missed birthday, every dismissive remark, meticulously cataloged in a massive folder. Bank statements revealed thousands funneled to Brianna while Eli got hand-me-downs. Text messages where I'd pleaded for them to attend Eli's school performances were met with excuses or silence. And at the heart of it all, that damning letter from 1988, where my mother wrote to my father that she couldn't bond with Eli. His cold reply, favoring Brianna, explained a lifetime of rejection I had never fully understood. Monday morning, I called Eli's school and filed for a restricted access order. Only approved individuals could pick him up or visit Aunt Carla or Uncle Ray. My close friends Jennifer and Frank and Elaine's names were conspicuously absent. Is everything okay, Miss Monroe? The principal asked, concern in her voice. Just taking precautions, I replied. A family situation that needs resolving. That afternoon, I met with my estate attorney and updated my will. If anything happened to me, Carla and Ray would become Eli's legal guardians. Not Frank, not Elaine, not Brianna. The document felt like armor, protection extending beyond my lifetime. When my attorney delivered our formal response to the grandparent visitation petition, she called afterward, barely containing her satisfaction. Their lawyer just called me, she said. What did he say? I asked. He's advising them to drop the case? Your documentation, especially that 1988 letter, made it clear he couldn't pursue a case this damaging if it went public. I had won, not just this battle, but the war. Years of being the family doormat had forged in me the perfect weapon, meticulous record-keeping, born from desperate attempts to understand what I'd done wrong. The next morning, I mailed identical letters to Frank, Elaine, and Brianna. 1 page, 5 sentences. I documented every instance of neglect, manipulation, and cruelty toward Eli and myself. I shared it with my attorneys and trusted friends, with instructions to release it if necessary. If you contact me or Eli again in any way, the letter read, I will involve law enforcement and make everything public. This is not a negotiation. It is permanent. That evening, I gathered every family photo featuring Frank, Elaine, and Brianna. Frames emptied one by one, feeding each picture into the shredder. Holiday smiles, forced family gatherings, everything reduced to confetti. I created a new photo wall, Eli and I at the Grand Canyon. Carla and Ray showing him how to fish. Jennifer's family joining us for Thanksgiving. Our chosen family, the people who actually showed up. My phone buzzed with messages from extended family I hadn't heard from in years. My father's brother asking if what he'd heard was true. My mother's cousin expressing shock over the CPS report. The power dynamics were shifting. The carefully constructed family story was unraveling. The following weekend, I booked a camping trip to Sedona. Just Eli and me under the stars. Our first real just us adventure. As we loaded the car, my phone pinged. One last message from Elaine. My finger hovered over the delete button. Part of me, the old Alexis, wanted to know what she had to say. What excuse, plea, or threat was she sending this time? I took a deep breath and hit delete without opening it. Some messages aren't meant to be read. Some chapters should remain closed. Ready for an adventure, buddy? I called to Eli, who was carefully arranging his sleeping bag in the trunk. His smile, relaxed, genuine, the kind I hadn't seen in months, was all the confirmation I needed. 3 months later, the tent stakes sank into the rusty earth with satisfying thuds as I secured our temporary home. Sedona's red rock formations rose around us, glowing in the late afternoon sun like ancient sentinels set aflame. Eli darted between the juniper trees, laughter bouncing off canyon walls as he collected pine cones for our campfire. Mom, look at this one. He held up a perfectly formed specimen, eyes bright with discovery. Bigger than his hand. No phones pinging with accusatory texts. No family drama suffocating us like tight clothing. Just open skies, fresh air, and my son's voice stronger, more confident than ever. That's perfect for our collection, I called, smiling as he carefully placed it with the others. Eli chattered about rock formations and desert wildlife as we finished setting up camp, his knowledge surprising me. The quiet, hesitant boy from the Copper House Grill had transformed into a curious explorer, speaking freely without worrying if anyone wanted to listen. Our laughter echoed off the canyon walls as we raced to fill the water jugs, playfully splashing each other at the campground spigot. His uninhibited giggles filled corners of my heart I hadn't realized were empty. Later, our simple camp dinner felt like a luxury compared to the sterile restaurant meal months ago. Flames danced in the fire pit as we roasted hot dogs and marshmallows. Eli sat cross-legged on a flat rock, completely absorbed in turning his marshmallow to golden perfection. When he looked up, chocolate smeared across his chin and graham cracker crumbs dusting his shirt, his expression suddenly grew serious. You seem happier, Mom. The words struck me with an unexpected weight. This observant child notices everything, always has. I exhale slowly, eyes on the flickering flames. I feel like I'm 3 months ago. Then, those same words might have been forced reassurance. Tonight, they feel like simple truth. The dynamic between us remains, mother and son navigating life together, but utterly changed since that tense night at the restaurant. While Eli searches for the perfect stick for another marshmallow, I reflect on the journey that brought us here. For years, I wore the peacekeeper role like a second skin, sacrificing my own well-being to maintain a family harmony that never truly existed. The guilt that once shadowed every attempt at setting boundaries has been replaced by something stronger, confident self-advocacy. I no longer feel selfish for refusing to be mistreated. The mantra that carried me through those final confrontations echoes in my mind. We deserve respect, not just inclusion. Monthly therapy sessions have helped me process family trauma without being consumed by it. I've found friendships with other parents who understand that healthy boundaries aren't walls, they're necessary. Protection. The promotion I earned last month reflects energy, finally redirected toward my career, rather than managing family crises. Eli's teacher notes his grades improving alongside his growing confidence. My relationships with Aunt Carla and Uncle Ray have blossomed into something genuine. The family we've chosen, not inherited. Just last week, Jennifer from accounting stopped by my desk, eyes red from crying over her mother's latest manipulation attempt. How do you do it? She asked. Just walk away from family? I shared what took me years to learn. You can love people from a distance. Sometimes that's the most honest love there is. I gave her my therapist's number and the title of the book that helped me recognize generational patterns. Helping others navigate similar struggles has become an unexpected gift. Morning arrives in pink gold light spilling over distant mesas. Eli and I hike toward a viewpoint overlooking the valley, our breathing sinking in comfortable silence. Standing there, I notice my body feels different. Shoulders relaxed, spine straight, breath easy. Eli reaches for my hand naturally as we pause. "Trust fully restored, Mom?" he asks, squinting at the brightening sky. "Yes, buddy. I like our family better now." I squeeze his small hand in mine. Me too. The simple truth settles between us. Family is what we build, not what we're born into. As the sun crests the horizon, mother and son stand silhouetted against the dawn, walking together toward a new horizon, something neither of us could have imagined 6 months ago. Subscribe.